Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram, and this is fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 226. Boy, do I have an amazing guest for you tonight, Mr. Jeff Lowenfels. How you doing, sir? Could you please tell us where we can find you and how you're doing today?
Sure, I'm doing great. I thought we were going to be speaking this morning at 7:30, so I've been waiting for this for 12 hours. I'm so stupid. I got the time wrong. That was just my fault altogether. But I'm up here in Anchorage, Alaska, and I'm trying not to write another book because I've got a nice little trilogy that I think does just fine. Why do I need to write another one? But I'm resisting it because it's COVID time.
Why should you write another one? Oh, we could all give you probably 1,000 reasons for that. 1,000 questions.
Yeah, probably. But could you come down into the rabbit hole with me when I have to write the damn thing? It's such an unpleasant experience. I just, you know what I mean? It's just tough. It's a tough thing to do. But at least I got the other three in, so we worked out okay.
No, I wanted to, first off, thank you, for being here, and thank you for the knowledge you put forth over the years. I mean, It's not like you haven't put forth a ton of knowledge already, but man, thank you.
Well, I appreciate
ahead of time.
Appreciate it. Of course, when I wrote all of these things, none of it was oriented towards cannabis. I mean, these were gardening books for gardeners. I grew, but the books were not written for people to follow who were cannabis growers. And I think, we've gotten around that. People have obviously discovered that there's one way to grow plants. It doesn't matter whether it's a cannabis plant or a tomato plant, and that's organically, and that's using the soil food web. Whether you call it regenerative agriculture, whether you call it soil food web agriculture, organic, it's the way to do things. And so that's I'm glad there was a convergence, that's for sure.
Well, there was, and it's one of those things too that it hasn't just, cannabis has just opened the door for a lot of people as far as gardening goes. You mentioned, we snuck in there trying to learn about cannabis through the gardening, but these days we're finding out that that what we're learning in the cannabis books isn't nothing. It isn't even scratching the surface. Now I find that the community is reaching way out into the gardening books going, man, this all applies, it's all, taking care of the dirt, and everything that we should have been learning in the beginning was right here.
Sure. And I think what happened was we converted from going from hydroponics, where you had to hide stuff. Hydroponics was the way people grew cannabis, and now people have discovered soil, and with the addition of auto-flowering cannabis, it's become a plant that's just like the tomato plant, grows quickly, produces fruit quickly. Everybody likes the harvest, and there's lots of different varieties. So I think we're there. As of tonight, New Jersey just legalized cannabis. It won't be but 4 or 5 months before New York does. It's over. And I think what we got to do now is just stay on our toes, as you have to do in Michigan, to make sure that they don't start doing two things. One, treating this as their prize-winning taxation method, and two, that they don't put any stupid restrictions, like New York State was thinking about legalizing cannabis, but you couldn't grow your own. No. So we gotta take this back all the way, not just part of the way. I mean, and it's really pretty important, I think.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about when cannabis lit your fire? I mean,
lit my fire. Let me see if I can remind myself. Oh yeah. Well, I think I was in college. I was majoring in geology, and I had a fellow classmate, and he and I decided he was going to get me stoned, and he did. And I'll never forget standing in line waiting for a pizza suddenly realizing, oh my God, this is really fun. I could end up doing this all the time. And that was 56, 57, 58 years ago. So it's been quite some time. Of course, I'm of that generation. I'm of that generation.
Nice, nice. Do you remember what cultivar it was back then that you were smoking on?
Yep, it was sticks and stones, literally. It was just, back then you had to pull out the seeds and throw them away because they gave you headaches, and there were lots of them, and there were little stones and pieces of sticks. Nobody knew Sansamia. It was just, they sent up from wherever it came from leaves of a couple of flowers. It was crappy stuff, but God, it did the job. And then we started, we started getting Thai sticks, came in from Vietnam, and people started to grow some of those seeds and change the way they sort of presented themselves, and so things changed pretty quickly. But at the beginning, it was terrible. $15 for an ounce, $15, and you got what you paid for. It was terrible. There was terrible. There was a reason why people would say, they would try to sell you oregano. Well, you didn't know, because you didn't know what weed looked like. There was no Sansamia. It's hard to believe. Now I'm looking at your tent back there. You're going for flower. Period. The leaves you could care less about. That wasn't so back then. That wasn't so back then. And you can get stoned from the leaves, I can tell you that, but not like we do these days. Woo. Big difference.
So, when did you actually? How long from actually smoking it to cultivating it?
Well, let's see. I came to Alaska in 1975, and it was shortly thereafter that they legalized cannabis in the privacy of your home. Anywhere you had an expectation of privacy, you could have cannabis. You could grow it, you could smoke it, you could cook with it, you could put it on display, but you had to have an expectation of privacy. And so people started growing it immediately after that decision by the state Supreme Court, and I was one of them. So yeah, probably since 1976, on and off. It's one of those things. It's just a fun plant to grow. I grew some when I was in law school. Frankly, now that my mother's not alive, I guess I can mention that. And since I probably won't be running into too many of my law school professors, but yeah, for a long, long time, and most people in my generation, my age, my ilk, grew cannabis at some point in time.
What brought you to Alaska? What was it? Was it cannabis? The draw to grow cannabis was on the ballot?
No, because it wasn't legal when I came up, but it became legal once I got here. But no, I got held up and shot in Boston, and I said, that's it. I'm getting as far away from the East Coast as I can, and so I fled to Alaska, where I practiced law for a long time. But Alaska is a different kind of place, and since cannabis has been legal since 1975, it's now recreationally legal. So we have dispensaries you can buy and sell. The stigma here is different, very different. As you're noticing in Michigan, it's becoming a little bit more acceptable. People are accepting the fact that maybe their neighbor is growing weed, it's legal. But it takes a while for that stigma to go away, and it's happening. And with a place like New Jersey becoming legal, soon New York, I'm sure. I don't know how many of the other places. It's going to be simply amazing. You'll be growing those cannabis plants right out on your front porch.
Oh, that'll be the day. That's for sure. It's getting close to that here in Michigan.
It is.
I mean, this year with the rec, Michigan being rec, it seemed like every house was able to have 12. So every uncle, aunt, everybody seemingly smoking cannabis or not seemed to have 12 growing this year.
Yeah, so, but were they growing autos, or were they growing the big guys?
They were trying to grow big guys. I didn't see too many big guys, but
Yeah. But the autos are the way to go. And my fourth book is on auto flowering cannabis. To me, it's the next tomato plant, no question about it. It's the plant people need to be growing because you can grow it in a tent and have 4 or 5 plants. You can grow it in the backyard and have 4 or 5 plants. You can grow it in a condo. I mean, it's just a beautiful, wonderful, easy plant to grow, and it gives you the same kind of cannabis you're going to get out of a conventional plant. So there's no reason not to. And I'm pretty sure that in Michigan, a lot of your commercial growers are using super autoflower plants rather than sativa indica to get their commercial stuff. I'd be very surprised if they weren't.
Well, I tell you, I've been on the fence with the autos up until this last year. This last season, I kind of went, well, maybe I should reconsider. And it came from out of the weirdest place I never thought I'd see it come from, and that was from I interviewed people from all around the world now, and it was from the people I was interviewing up in Canada, growing outdoors. They're like, that's all we got time for up here. And a friend of mine, Boom Farms, who comes on the channels, he grew some 6-7 footers outdoors, and they were beautiful, which completely changed my tune on autos. And I seen it in a few different spots before. Everything I had seen was, but
well, I live in Alaska, and of course we have a photo period problem here, and so if you really want to grow good weed, you got a real problem, and you got to have some indoor space to finish it up because the day period changes right when our frost begins. So autoflowers up here, phenomenal. The breeding has improved considerably. It's important to find a good breeder. Some of the breeds are for cuteness. You get cute little plants. You get stoned off the little flower, but it's a little one. Some of them are bred for size. In other words, a medium-sized plant to fit your closet. And some of them are grown, for commercial purposes. And those are the ones that I find to be just out of this world. They're only 4 feet tall, and you get a yield off of those puppies like no one's business. I mean, it is phenomenal. So that plus the timing of it all just makes it a perfect plant. The idea that where you live, you could have 3 crops in the summertime. Holy crow. Well worth it. Well worth it. But you got to know your breeder. You got to get the good ones. And I tell people to go on autoflower.net. Just spend some time on autoflower.net. You check around. They've got contests. They've got people who are growing them in, specialized. So you grow them in those little red and white paper, plastic cups. People that are growing them big, commercial growers, different stuff on lighting and hours. And this is a whole new science. If you think getting into soil and growing cannabis once you left hydro opened up the world, wait till everybody tries everything that's available with these autoflowers, because it's just spectacular. It makes this a hobby that just can't be beat. It's everything you'd ever want, and you can go from seed to harvest in 75 days. I had one this summer, 45 days seed to harvest. Wow, that's pretty quick.
Which one was it?
Well, it was a guy sent me a bunch from Russia. So these were Russia ruderalis with just a teeny little bit of either indica or sativa in it. They were good. They weren't massive production because there wasn't enough time. But if you find some that take, when you look at the labels when you're buying, if they take 75 to 90 days, or even a little bit longer than 90 days, you're going to be getting a pretty big plant that's going to give you a pretty good yield. So people really, really need to use and try autoflowers. Don't just try one kind, try several so you get the feel for it. They're so easy to grow. Here's a plant that really doesn't even like to be fertilized. That's how easy they are to grow. You can leave the lights on for 24 hours, the entire life of the plant, and it'll produce like you can't believe. Whew. These are really fun plants. So those aren't autos back there.
Oh no, these are photos. These are all photos. I work with a few different breeders that do a lot of testing for a few breeders. So I run all photo periods over here. I've tried, early on autos and just had bad luck. It
Oh
was,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe
No,
trying to
early they were
maybe I
terrible.
should have like
No, they were
forgot
awful.
what I know. I don't know.
Yeah, no. Early on, the genetics just were not there, and it's taken 2 or 3 years ago. They just popped it. Boom, they got it. I mean, all of a sudden, whoa! You'd give some cannabis to a friend to try it, and they'd go, "Wow, that's great stuff." You say, "Oh, that's autoflowers." They go, "What? No way!" It's a completely different world today. So try it again. Try it again. And there's some really good breeders out there. Really good breeders.
So I'm a little curious. I know when I've talked to a lot of people about autos, one of the confusions I see the most is pot size. Can you tell me a little bit about what pot size we should be running, or maybe and my question in particular is should it be like a tall? Should we worry about tall or short containers? Should they be
Yeah,
like a tall?
nah, I use just a regular the standard container for any autoflower is a 5 gallon ubiquitous hardware bucket. The buckets you get at any hardware store. You puck a couple of holes at the bottom of those, but so a 5 gallon pot of any kind, 5 to 7 gallons. If you know that the seeds you have are what we call super auto flowering, the bigger ones that get up 3, 4 feet, those you want to put in a 7 gallon. I like to try to start the plant in the same pot that I'm going to be growing in. Now, that's sort of counterintuitive. A lot of times what we do is we start in a little seed starting block, and then we move on to a bigger pot, and then we put it into a bigger pot. I don't like to move them because these things grow so quickly. You disturb the roots of any plant, you're going to slow that plant down 2, 3, 4, up to a week's worth of time. I just leave it right there from seed to finish, right in the same pot. Mwah. It's the only way to go. The other thing is I tend to reuse my soil because these autoflowering plants, I find, don't like really rich soil, which is interesting. And so I build up a good microbial life in my soils using soil food web methods. I don't pull out the old roots. I leave them in there. And then lo and behold, I end up with a great environment for growing autoflowers. The old root system acts as a sort of a channel for the new roots to grow along. There's all the existing bacteria and fungi in there, and just it's a great and organic material for the microbes that can get to eat and improve the soil and make good soil structure and all that good stuff. So, yeah, 5 gallon pot basically. Now, there are contests where people try to grow them in smaller pots, and you can do it, and you can grow. But I think it just takes a lot more work than I'm willing to put in right now. This is COVID time, easy to spend the time, but normally I'm traveling around. I might be home 1 week a month. I want things automated. I want them simple. I want to put my plants in a tent, turn the water on, turn the lights on, be able to go and do my talks and whatnot. And auto flowering plants are perfect for that. Absolutely perfect for that.
Can you give us any kind of suggestions on training?
I don't train. When I first started, I would train a little bit just because it's fun. But I've discovered that these plants have been bred just to produce, and you really don't need to train it. If you pinch the plant back, it's got to be a 90-day plant because they start to flower after 2.5 weeks. So you can't treat them like you treat a regular plant. They grow so quickly. That you got to be careful about it. So training turned out not to be necessary. I think the breeders who bred these things together, they did so in a way to create the best possible cola situation on a plant I've ever seen. They're just beautiful plants. It's really quite something to watch them, quite something to harvest them and play with them. They're just fun, a lot of fun. I even started breeding a couple of my own. I mean, I don't know what they are. I've got seeds and I've pollinated and reseeded and gotten great results. And what fun. Only because you can do it quickly. I mean, goodness gracious, 45 to 75 days, you can do a couple of generations right there in the summertime. 3, 4.
Yeah, I've never even considered that aspect of it.
And
But
then,
my
and
next
then,
question would be how many times down the line with a photo with a autoflower before you get something that's pretty well stable?
well, that's a good question. I mean, because I've researched this, I haven't tried to do it yet because I'm too eager to see what I have. Uh, uh, but I think you can stabilize in, what was it, 3 generations, 3 or 4 generations. Um, so it's not, breeding is not my thing. My breeding happens accidentally, and oh boy, it's always sort of fun, because usually when you get a male plant, you go, rats. But not with these autos. Oh, good, I got somebody I can fool around with a little bit, they're really fun. They're really a lot of fun. You can hardly shut me up about autoflower plants. I can tell you that right now.
It's all right. 'Cause there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of interest in them.
Sure, and there
That's
should be, because you can breed these things with the regulars. So you can take your landrace strains and work on landrace, breeding autoflower landrace. Oh gosh, there's some real great opportunities here for people to fool with, and particularly people who are in my position, just a little bit to be dangerous. This is something you can learn a lot about, but even if you don't know a lot about it, you can still do it. Fun. A lot of fun.
So, are you finding a uniformity on it all? Is that something that will be that will interest people? Like you were talking about on a commercial level. Is that what they're
Oh,
seeing?
absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
basically clones across the board.
No clones, because they flower too
No,
quickly, and they
no,
don't
I
clone
mean,
well at
do they
all. They
come
grow
up
way too fast.
similar,
Seed to
like they could be
harvest,
clones?
75 days on average. That's really fast. So seed to harvest. So if you plant these things as they do in Oregon, where they grow them on a commercial basis, both for hemp as well as for cannabis, um, they put them on 2-foot centers. They get 4.5-foot plants on 2-foot centers. They end up with 6,000 pounds per acre. If you take the indica sativa plants and put them as close together as you can grow them well, you end up with maybe 3,000. If you're really good at it, 4,000 pounds. So you get a higher yield on a commercial basis using these super autoflower plants that are produced. Fabulous. The breeding, again, fabulous. I have a friend in Oregon. He's a commercial breeder. He's been breeding onions and all sorts of stuff, and he got into the autoflowering stuff for a company which he became part of. And they were selling on a commercial basis to dispensaries, so that you and I could go in and buy a small packet. So successful now, he only sells to commercial growers.
Do
So
you
it's happening,
see?
and if it's not happening in Michigan, you should start it, because Michigan's a perfect place for this. Perfect.
Do you see autos just being a wiser choice on, at least on the outdoor grows, just because it seems to be, like you said, a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more easier on the environment?
Well, it's easier in all regards. It not only is it easier on the environment because they take less fertilizer, et cetera, et cetera. Um, they're easier to work with. They're short. You don't need a ladder. You don't have an OSHA problem with your employees harvesting. You don't need to get an axe to cut down the plant. I mean, they're easier to work with. And again, let me give you that number. Now, this particular Oregon breeder's plants, 1 acre of plants, 2-foot centers, 6,000 pounds per acre. Sativa indica plants, you get 3,000 pounds per acre. Why? Because these things are, when you grow them properly, they're all colas, and they can have 6, 7, 8, 9 gigantic colas on each plant. Whoa, they don't waste time growing up and then getting their flowers up at the tip. They're just a different plant. They're a bush as opposed to a tree. so to speak. So again, I encourage people to take a look at it. The book I wrote really isn't for professional growers. It's DIY autoflowering cannabis, a new way to grow. It's for your aunt and uncle. It's for your mother and father. You're a professional grower. You know how to grow. You stick the seed in and you grow it. But your mom and dad, they need a little bit of hand holding, particularly when it's cannabis, and they're still thinking reefer madness in the back of their head. So, yeah, I encourage people to get into the autoflower business and to do it right away. Do not wait.
It's funny you bring up the reefer madness. We jokingly say around here quite a bit that
I'm old enough to remember a lot of that stuff.
We could only be so lucky to find some cannabis that could be that heavy these days.
I just lost you. Oh, wait a minute. I lost you there.
I said we could only be so lucky to smoke some cannabis that would give us some reefer madness like that.
Can't hear you.
Oh man, I'm here. I can see you. You may have to. Are you there?
Oh yeah, you're right there. Oh.
Okay.
Oh, I think we may be having northern lights. That might be the closer to the end of our conversation.
I hope not. I hope not.
We're back.
Yeah.
Good. It worked. Yeah, Reefer Madness, that was great. The other day I had the opportunity to do an interview with Tommy Chong, and we were talking about some of the old days. Whew, man, it's a different world today, and people ought to take advantage of it and not let it slip away. That's for sure. We want to make sure we keep what we have because we do not need to lose this. Getting me through COVID. How about you?
Oh, for sure. That's for sure. I mean, if I had to be stuck anywhere here with my plants, I couldn't suggest a better place. Are you there?
Yep.
I was saying that if I had to be stuck anywhere here with my plants, couldn't be any better of a place to be stuck with, during the COVID.
You're right. It's fun. It's fun. I wish I had a dog, maybe to go with it. I was telling, my hair is getting so long. I get so sick of this COVID stuff. But it is good to have the weed. That's for sure. No question about it. So what else are you growing? Just those, or do you have any outside? Not now because it's cold, right?
No. I do most of my growing indoors. Yeah, I thought about taking it outdoors this year, but then I had some people on my property line that kind of discouraged me a little bit. So I thought maybe next year. But I definitely, this isn't, I'm actually a caregiver here in Michigan. And so I take care of myself and 5 patients. And I have a pretty nice plant count. Keeps me busy.
And this has been recreationally legal there, just for a couple of years now? Or no, for 1 year.
We're going on year 2.
Oh, okay.
Going on year 2 here.
And so what's the price of what's the price of an ounce of commercial price? If I walked into a dispensary and I said, I want to buy an ounce of weed, what would it cost me?
Wow, I don't know. I haven't been in there and tried that. Thank goodness. But I think it would be in the market of between $300 and $500, I would say, for an ounce of some quality flower. Recreational.
And is it organic or not?
I would say probably not. Probably not. And this would make you probably feel pretty good here. I've known quite a few growers that look for a job at one of these recreational places, and as soon as they find out they're growing in Rockwell, they're like, nah, that's okay. The dream's not there.
Right. I mean, and I think that's where we're going. That's one of the reasons why teaming with microbes, I think, makes so much sense, is because sooner or later, people realize, we're putting this stuff in our lungs. We're putting this stuff into our bodies. whoa, we're ever increasing our consumption of organic foods. Why would this be any different? And it's not. And that's, I mean, that's why teaming with microbes has done so well, because it's, you have to know the science behind it in order to be able to do it right. And once you know the science, you're there. It's so easy to do. And it's so much better for you, for your employees, for the environment, for your customers in all regards. I always laugh. Medical cannabis that's not organic? Please, come on, folks. It just doesn't make any sense. If it's a medicine, it's a medicine. So, organic's the only way to go, period.
So, should we be teaming with microbes? Is a good question.
Yeah, you should
there
be
was
indoors
another.
and outdoors. I know
There's
a
a
lot of people.
grower lately. I don't want to put him on the spot, but he was it's his method, so why not? Mr. Brandon Rust there, from growing with my fellow home growers. You've been on their show. You've been on their show there.
I know, Brandon. Yeah.
So he's been saying a lot lately that maybe we should be starting with like maybe a blank slate and just charging them with 1 or 2 microbes that are geared just for the cannabis plant and kind of leaving the rest out of the cycle. Is that something that you agree with? I mean, if we're talking to organics, in my opinion, I think we need the whole team. Like you said, teaming.
It's teaming. Well, I mean, what he's got there is a food, part of a food chain, not even a web. What people forget is it's not just the feeding of the cannabis plant. And by the way, it takes a lot more than 1 or 2 microbes. It is creating soil structure for the cannabis plant to be able to grow in. It's creating soil structure for the microbes which feed the cannabis plant to live in. And you don't get that with 1 or 2 microbes. You don't get a plant that lives with 1 or 2 kinds of microbes. So if he's saying that, and I love Brandon, he's wrong, and that's not what's happening in his soils. I don't know what else to say, but it's not something I would ever suggest to people do. Now, is there one kind of mycorrhizal fungi? Yes. Are there 15 different kinds of mycorrhizal fungi? No. So if he's only speaking about mycorrhizal fungi, okay, yeah, there's one kind. But when it comes to the bacteria and the other fungi, you need lots of diversity and lots of different kinds, or you are going to have a dead, unhealthy, and very quickly dead plant. Bad advice. Again, without even knowing what his advice is, it's bad advice.
Well, I don't want to go too much further into the process there, but
sure.
Basically
because I'm sure it must be much more complicated than that. Plants don't live on 1 microbe or 2 microbes. They just don't.
I agree with that there. So, like I was saying, though, it's amazing how earlier on how the cannabis plant has taken us all on a journey, with organics. I'm you're probably a little upset. I'm in Coco right now. I'm kind of transitioning into organics.
Well,
with much push in the community.
Coco has a lot of microbes in it and can have a very high microbiology, believe it or not.
And I was going to ask you too, why, I've got you point blank, no better time than now. About, I run a nice chunky cocoa back there. It's, practically wood chips. And so how do you feel about, growers swapping out this type of medium, instead of, for perlite? This chunky for aeration.
Yeah, I don't have any problem
because,
with it.
A lot of us, that was one of my reasons why I switched there, was because of that, to the chunky cocoa, because, like you were saying, and again, I was surprised you said it, when it comes to my autos, I reused my soil, and I thought, well, he should be reusing his soil every time, I thought.
Yeah, I do. I do.
So, I can't help but, think that, but not a lot of us do. I've been growing for a long time, and for one point we were just taught,
Yeah, throw it out.
that's the thing to do. Throw it out. You're inviting a mess the next round. But we are getting smarter through the process. But one of the things that deterred me was a yard full of perlite. I was like, there's got to be a better way for aeration than
right.
that.
And you can put this in a compost pile and compost it out and recharge it, so to speak. And but it's got a high microbiology in it, and so you can you should test that and find the right kind that has the highest microbiology, so that you're actually getting closer to or being pure organic. And you can do that by using the microbiometer. Brandon's tried it. www.microbiometer.com. It's a $5 test. You do it in 20 minutes, and it tells you whether you've got a high microbiomass in your growing medium. And if you do, then you lower the amounts of foods and inputs that you put in it. It makes things much more sustainable, and it's much better way to go. But yeah, coco coir, people forget that this stuff, it can be sterilized, but it can also come with tremendous amounts of microbiology, really a lot of microbiology. Some of the highest numbers I've seen, in fact, of soils has been coco coir soils.
I've been pretty happy with it through the years, but it's one of them things too that I need to switch. I'm tired of dumping stuff into the yard. It's time to just maybe create some living beds.
Right, exactly, and start becoming an expert in that, because ultimately I'm convinced the quality weed that people are going to buy, that your customers are going to want, is going to be organic. And as the price begins to drop down below $300 an ounce, what differentiates your crappy dope from everybody else's crappy dope? Dope that they grow that gets mold on it and stuff, and they don't care, blah blah blah. If it's organic, I'll pay extra for it. So will most people, just like they do in the supermarket, because it's better. So you're getting there. Reread Teaming with Microbes. That's what I say. Take a look at.
I actually listened to keyword listen.
Oh, you got it.
Teaming with Microbes and Teaming with Nutrients. Both of them, I powered through both of them today. Just kind of.
So you listen to them. I found out about it, like a week before they came out. I said, "Who's reading it?" I guess that guy did. He did Jon Stewart's books. The Daily Show books. I don't know if he's funny or not, but I hope he has a little sense of humor as he reads through this stuff. I hope he didn't just pick it up and start reading it. So I'm scared to listen to him. It's.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, I enjoy it. I wish that there was something I could cross-reference, because I know there's probably some, charts or something that I'm probably missing out on that I would have seen in the book. But I really enjoy it because I can, listen to it. That I can. I enjoy listening to it while I'm working through the garden. You know what I mean? It's I can multitask while I'm in the garden.
Good. Well, I'm always waiting, to watch, when they interview people on the news shows, that now everybody's in their home, and they're sitting in front of their fireplace with their bookshelf next to them. I'm waiting for, Joe Blow, famous guy, have my book sitting right there in the bookshelf there. Then I'll be a happy guy, Then I'll know.
When are we going to get the Teaming with Fungi on audio there?
I don't. I asked them that last week, actually, because I've had enough people ask me for it, and they said they did the first two to see how they were selling. They weren't sure they were going to sell it all. They're selling, so they'll do the third one. Although it's got a lot of Latin words in it, unlike the other ones. There are a lot of fungi. They're Rhizophagus irrigator. And so. I don't know how the reader gets through those.
That's the beauty of audio. I was just saying that the other day. on my end, for one, I don't find a lot of time where I can sit around and read. And sometimes when I get into situations just like you're talking about,
Yeah.
I kind of tends to wear me down a little bit. But if I'm got it in my ear and have a gentleman saying it to me while I work, and it's so much easier. You know what I mean? And if I don't understand it, then I just power through it again. You know what I
Yeah, no,
mean? It's
I get you there, but I mean, I'll tell you, I wouldn't be the guy that was the audio reader for teaming with fungi because there's too many words in it I can't pronounce. But if he wants to try, I hope he does.
I hope he does. I hope he
Yeah,
does.
they will. So we're plowing through trying to get it translated into more languages, and because it's really it's important. We need to save our soil. We need to grow things right. We need to be eating right. Using the soil food web, that's the way to do it. Period.
Is there even such a thing? I would be more apt to this because I love the hard copy books. Just for you never know when you're gonna have a power outage or whatever. I just like to hold on. I'd like to have physical copies
Yeah, yeah,
of stuff.
yeah. I'm
I
surprised
would.
they don't
It
sell
would
them
be
both at
nice if
once.
it. Yes, yes, yes. You buy the book and get a link to the audio copy for like when you're driving or it'd
Oh,
be. I'd
I'm
pay the
just
extra few bucks
I'm
for
just
the
the
set.
author. I'm a mere writer. I don't make the money, and I don't I mean I don't make the decisions. So yeah, it's you don't write books to be in control. And I guess maybe you do now. I mean, if I had to do this all over again, I might consider self-publishing. But too much, too much. It's a real hassle.
So I'm curious to know. You've wandered your way up to Alaska. You're practicing some law up there. How do you find yourself at the paper writing a gardening section?
Yeah, we had when I first got up here, everything was tape delayed, and the newspaper had news that was 2 days old. It was what you thought Alaska was like, far, far away. And so we had two newspapers run by one company, and the company had a good paper and a bad paper. I'll just leave it there. The bad paper was not doing was in charge, and the good paper was not doing well. And so I helped bring the good paper into form, and sold a lot of subscriptions one day. And the publisher said, "Gee, what else can you do for me?" And I said, "I can write your garden column." And been doing it every single week, coming on 45 years this month. In fact, in 2 weeks, it'll be my 45th year. Oh, God. Never missed a single column because they put your picture in the paper. He's on vacation. That to me always said, he's not home, go rob his house. So I always had a column, and now the paper's into it. And, I got to have that column every week. So, whew, a lot of burden.
I heard you say that a long time ago. A long time ago.
Yeah,
And
it's true.
when I started doing
It's
this,
true.
which it's been pushing, well, I've been involved with the cannabis content, if you will, on YouTube now for pushing 2 years solid. Before this, 226 episodes of this project. And
Ooh,
that's not even counting. There's episodes in between. Like
yeah,
tonight, there'll be a 26.5 before 27 starts.
crazy.
So I was actually working on another show, the Michigan Bros Grow Show, and there was times, and that was every Sunday. And there'd be times or behind the scenes, they'd be like, if you feel like taking a week off, you guys can. I always thought of you saying that.
Yeah, no, every
If you
week.
take a day off, somebody else is going to take your box. And I always thought, ain't nobody taking my box. I'm
That's
showing up.
right. No, that's true. It's true. It's very, very true. So yeah, so I've been doing it. I don't know how much longer I could do it, but what it did is it taught me how to write books like Teaming with Microbes and Teaming with Fungi and Teaming with Nutrients, because those are lots of small little columns put together, so to speak. And you read 500-600 words, you digest it, or the reader reads it to you. Then there's a little black line. then you read what's underneath that black line, and then there's another little black line, so it's just little small kind of columns as you go through it all. And it's real easy. It puts together easy. And anybody who grows cannabis that's not using the soil food web method's not really growing cannabis the right way, because it just won't taste as good. It won't grow as well. It won't express as well. The soil food web is like the basis. You have photosynthesis, the sun, it's a three-legged stool, sunlight, you get the soil food web, microbes. That's it right there, man. I mean, it's like, woo. So you want to have the best possible condominium filled with the best possible guests living in the condominium, feeding your plant the way it deserves to be fed. Simple. Well, I can't hear you.
That time it was completely me. I had mic'd myself there.
Oh, good.
So, when you're writing for the paper there, was it such a thing where, as you brought the story in weekly, your colleagues were like, I hope Jeff's bringing in some of those extra tomatoes with the story this week?
No, it was funny because I never wrote about I would tell my friends, when I write about tomatoes, sometimes I'm writing about cannabis, but I never wrote about cannabis until it was recreationally legalized, because I just never figured the newspaper wanted me doing it. Even though it was legal in the privacy of your home, I never wrote about it. And then one day I put a whole column together, and I was dumbfounded at the reaction. People really love the idea of growing cannabis. Again, it's difficult to grow a big plant. A sativa indica plant, 6 foot tall. It's tough to grow it in a yard. It's tough to grow it on a condo. It's tough to grow it on a deck. People love the idea, though, of being able to do it. They love the idea of getting a clone and being able to root it, and having a rooted clone and picking it up and growing into a beautiful plant. But it's that autoflower, I'm telling you, that's the wave. It's a revolution. That is the revolution. You're going to be able to someday walk into Lowe's and True Value and Ace Hardware, and over where they have the Christmas trees, some of those Christmas trees are going to be cannabis plants. Beautiful little autoflower plants decorated nicely. At Easter time, you're going to find beautiful Easter bushes of autoflower plants. In the spring, when you go into the nursery to buy your starts, the petunias and the tomato plants and all that kind of stuff, you're going to be able to buy auto-flowering cannabis plants. This is the future. We don't live in the day of, the evil marijuana is bad, kind of time. So we're moving there. We're getting there. And it's very exciting, I think. I'm predicting this, of course, but I'm convinced I'm right. It's just there. You can't avoid seeing it.
That would be pretty nice. I mean, imagine that. I mean, as we do now, we bring up wrapped up flowers to, people during the holidays. I mean, instead of, the Christmas flowers that we bring now, wouldn't it be nice to, like you say, bring in a nice, 3 foot, 2 foot flowering autoflower all wrapped up. Here you go, all ready for harvest. There you go.
Right. What a nice new tradition to start, a new kind of Christmas tree. I think it's just a great idea. It's just a simple thing. Anyway, it's we've seen a sea of changes. When I first got stoned with my friend Jeremy, we were paranoid beyond belief. We were doing sticks and stones. When we went outside, we were so scared we were going to be picked up and arrested and thrown into jail. We worried about whether we had left something in the dorm room that might incriminate us. I mean, my God, times have changed. And so we're lucky. And we got to just make sure we continue to move forward. This is a plant. It doesn't hurt anybody. And it's just one of those things that we have got to take back. We let them steal it from us. We need to take it back. And we're doing it.
Yeah, if anything, I can't wait to see everybody growing. I figure once everybody gets some, they're definitely not they're not going to take it back.
Right,
They're,
right, right. And
it's just
once you grow an autoflower, when you see that little flower appear, and boom, all of a sudden the color starts to form, and some of the leaves begin to, ooh, look at that leaf. It's got little red edges on it. Oh my God, or holy crow, that flower is as yellow as, wow, they're beautiful plants. So yeah, we're getting there. This is the next tomato plant. Go out, buy DIY autoflowering cannabis, and give it to your aunt and uncle. Get them growing cannabis. It's that simple. Think of how much easier our lives will be once they're all happy growing cannabis. I love it.
right. There is a question in chat here from Argo American, and they're asking, what are some of the best ways to harvest the microbes for us indoor guys?
Oh, you mean to harvest microbes to put into the soil?
Yeah, yeah. To
Oh,
bring
well,
back
I mean,
in.
there's any number of ways. I mean, obviously, compost and mulches, which work outside, as well as compost teas, work super indoors as well. But, bokashi, vermicompost, um, Korean farming methods, anything that generates a good microbial mix added to your soil adds to the variety and the mixture that's already in your soil. Don't destroy it, by pouring poisons on it and doing all sorts of stupid things to it. You want to have a nice living soil. And once you get it living, just putting down the dead leaves, letting them stay there, putting some chickweed and or maybe some sweet red white clover to fix nitrogen. I mean, there's all sorts of ways you can add microbes into the soil. So, and then of course you can add mycorrhizal fungi when you plant, when you do your seeding, when you do your transplanting. So there's lots and lots of different ways. By teaming with fungi and teaming with microbes, and you'll learn all of them.
Nice, I appreciate that. Fresh Grow would like to know what were some of the biggest game changers in your grow style?
Let's see. Well, obviously LED lights was just a gigantic shift. I use a plasma light now, but when I was able to shift from the high sodium, et cetera, those really hot, heavy lights, expensive, into LEDs, whew, just made a big gigantic difference. And autos do really super in those LEDs. So I say that's a big game changer. Let's see what else. Mycorrhizal fungi, very big game changer. We had no idea. We had no idea that if you put Rhizophagus intericides in your soil mix, if you rolled your seeds in it, that you got a better plant. We had no idea, that it would protect against certain nematodes and things like that. So yeah, mycorrhizal fungi would be the second thing. Let's see if there's anything else. Um, the genetics have just gotten better, I think. Some of them are the original genetics. We've just gotten back to them, but a lot of the breeding has been pretty good of late. I mean, for a long time we were breeding for size in order to be able to hide our plants. We were using only hash plants to start with, and so we weren't getting what the full plant was capable of. Today we're breeding landrace with other land races, and we're getting pure land races, and just a completely different kind of weed than we were getting back in the day. So I think the genetics would be the third thing that's really been the game changer.
Be Too Crazy for You would like to know what are some of the top breeders, in your opinion, that are actually putting out genetics that are close to their pictures? I mean,
Yeah, I like, let's see, I like Mandalorian, I like Full Duplex. Let's see, who else do I like? God, there's a couple of my. I always hate to go on autoflowering.net and take a look at what those people are saying and what they're showing. That's really the best way to go. Um, but there are some really great ones out there, and you're right. You want to get the breeders. That's what I find. go for the breeders. Don't go for the aggregators. I hate to put anybody out of business. I like the people that are breeding who sell the seeds themselves. I don't want to go to a company that's selling 15 different kinds. Just me. I don't know why that is either, because when I buy seeds from from my garden, I go to one place and I buy all my seeds from the same guy. So maybe I'm being silly there, but autoflowering.net, www.autoflowering.net. Check it out.
Sungrown 707 would like you to discuss some of the details of rolling some seeds and microbes. I know a lot of us have some gems that we're sitting on, but we're afraid to crack because giving them a bad start. You want to give us a little advice there?
Sure. I mean, we're all scared to crack our seeds. That's for sure, because you never know. You can do it two different ways. If you're going to do it the way I grow my autos, which is generally in the soil, in the pot, in the container that I'm going to grow the entire plant in, I'll put a little bit of mycorrhizal fungi in the area that the first roots will grow into. I'll sprinkle a little teeny bit into my planting hole, and then I'll actually spit or wet the seed if I haven't soaked it, and if I've soaked it, I'll take it out soaked, and then just sprinkle the mycorrhizal fungi on it. It's the plant that sends the signal out to the mycorrhizal fungi. So the plant signal has to reach the mycorrhizal fungi before the mycorrhizal fungi will germinate and will invade the plant. So you want them nice and close together, but you also want to be able to get the root to start to grow out into mycorrhizal fungi, so that new roots, as they're forming, get new colonies of mycorrhizal fungi on them. So I don't know if I answered the question there, but that's how I do it. And then, of course, I use compost tea. If I use mycorrhizal fungi and compost tea, I put the mycorrhizal fungi in after I finish the brew, because they're very fragile and they won't make it through a brewing cycle.
American wanted to know what other, besides cannabis, what other plants or trees are you growing? What other plants or trees do you enjoy growing?
Well, I grow all sorts of vegetables, tomatoes, string beans, pea pods, carrots, potatoes, all that kind of stuff. And in fact, in the wintertime this year, because I'm not going to be traveling because of COVID, I'm going to try to grow all that stuff in my greenhouse as well, as opposed to just growing it outside during the summertime. In Alaska, we got sort of an interesting situation where the only place in the country left where we can claim to have predominantly native trees and shrubs. And so I've begun to shift my thinking. I only want to see native plants here. So when it comes to trees and shrubs in Alaska, I think the botanical garden can be the place to do the show stuff, but the native stuff that grows around here, and so birches and spruce trees and just the native stuff that grows here is what I tend to stay with. So yeah, it's interesting. But cannabis is fun. That's the fun one.
Do you have some suggestions for good organic inputs for our cannabis?
Wait a minute, I missed that one because you're going in and out.
I was asking, can you suggest some good organic inputs for nothing still? How about now?
Oh, I got it. Organic. Yeah, you're there. Inputs for growing organic cannabis? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think I love using kelp. I love using soybean meal. I love using alfalfa, green sand. I love using vermicompost. Big on vermicompost. Vermicompost is really great stuff. It's the best kind of compost I think you can get. What else do I put in? That's about it, I guess. Really good soil.
What's your thoughts on? A lot of people are talking about the importance of adding gypsum. What are your thoughts on adding gypsum to our soils?
I've never had to do it up here. I think you might want to obviously get it tested and see whether what kind of additions it needs. What I tend to do is use compost with a couple of additions in it. And if I add stuff, it's to compost. I let the microbes break the stuff down and hold it in their bodies rather than, taking a pile of this and a pile of that and a pile of that and mixing it all together and using that as I like compost. And I like to add stuff to my compost, whether it's the green sand, whether it's the gypsum, whether it's microbes, I add it to the compost. The only thing that won't work in compost that doesn't grow there are mycorrhizal fungi, again, because they need that root. They need that signal from the root to germinate. You don't have any roots in compost, so you don't grow mycorrhizal fungi in it.
The American one here in chat would like to know, are you still steadfast on not removing any cannabis leaves as far as them being the best advice in any cultivation method or environment?
Yeah, I get a lot of grief for that, but I do believe that if you can figure out a way to grow your plants without taking those leaves off until they yellow, that's the way to go. That's how it grows naturally. Those are your factories that are growing all the food. I'm not. Well, let me back up a second. People have the impression that if the sunlight doesn't get on a flower because a leaf is in the way, that flower or that cola isn't going to develop properly. It's not how plants work. They share their photosynthetic food from all around the plant where there is light. So, yeah, I would say that's generally my thought. Now, I understand the concept that you pull off bottom leaves, fan leaves, for air circulation. I can understand that there's a reason to do that. But if you can avoid doing it, that's the way to go, in my opinion. And there are lots of different ways to grow plants.
Right on. What we have here, Argo, Michigan would also like to know, and I think it to be relevant. It's that time of year. How are you drying and curing your cannabis? Any special methods?
Sure. Well, depending on the size of the plant. If it was that 45-day plant, that little guy, I just cut the buds off and put it in a brown paper bag and put the paper bag aside for a week, and perfect drying. Really easy to do. Brown paper bag, as long as the buds don't touch each other, doesn't matter what size the cola is. If you put it in a brown paper bag, it's a great way to grow. Cardboard box, some people use, but I think brown paper bag works better. Other than that, I just hang my plants. I cut off the fan leaves that don't have sugar on them, and I hang, and I just let them dry for about anywhere from 5 to 7 days. Then I bring them inside. I do that out in an outdoor closet. Then I bring them inside, put them in the whole thing inside a paper bag, close that up for 2 or 3 days, get the last little bit of moisture out. Then I start a curing, then I cut the buds up, put it in a jar and start the curing process, 30 minutes every day for 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. So I really go through the process because it makes a difference. Do
you think that cannabis prefers a more fungal or bacterial, medium?
Yeah, I always like to straighten myself out on this one because I made the comment once that it likes more bacterial. I mean, it's an annual plant, and so in that regard, it's sort of, people used to grow their cannabis out in the old growth forest, and so the idea was that was the kind of soil that worked the best. Instead of they would go out in the national forest and grow their illegal crop of cannabis. But and Elaine Ingham and I have a little sort of difference on this thing. It needs fungus, but I think it should still be bacterially dominated, but it needs fungus. I think some people believe that it needs fungal domination, but obviously it still needs bacteria. So I like bacterial domination because I'm growing autos. If I'm growing an indica that's going to be in the ground for 8 months, I want more fungal. The longer it's in the ground, the more fungal that I give it.
Is there some inputs that you can suggest? We briefly touched on aeration there, but something that can for the long term. I mean, I've heard you push the importance of aeration in the soil, but a lot of us are mixing in like rice hulls and stuff like that now, and we're getting compaction at some point, and we're getting negative, uh, you know, results from
Yeah,
the
you need
compaction there.
worms. Add worms.
Lots and lots of worms.
Worms, springtails. I mean, the microarthropods, they tend to form burrows. They tunnel. They run around inside that soil. So yeah, that's why you want that diversity. You don't get that diversity if you only use a couple of microbes. So the more diversity of microbes you have, the more diversity of microarthropods that eat the microbes you have. The better soil structure you get. It's not just feeding the plant. Teaming with microbes isn't just about feeding the plant. It's about feeding the plant, but it's also about creating soil structure that the plant grows. So
Yes. Fresh Grow would also like to know here. You briefly touched on 24 hours of light during the auto grows. Is that something that you suggest? I mean, we know we can, but is it better? Do
yeah.
you find it's better to give it a little rest?
Not in that regard, although some of the growers on autoflower.net, last time I looked, are beginning to suggest that at the beginning of the grow, not to use 24 hours, to actually use like 12 hours. And so this is an area, there's some research that's going on. However, I always use 24-hour. That's all I use, 24-hour. And wow, it's amazing. It's just amazing. But I do it because I have a different building that I have to go to. I live in Alaska. I don't want to go outside, so that's sort of how I handle that. But a lot of people do 20 and then 4 hours of darkness, 24 hours of darkness. I just go 24/7. Whoop, did I lose you?
No, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me a
that
lot of. Oh, there you are.
surprises me a
Good.
little bit there. So, what are your thoughts? I've heard you mention
Yeah,
also
I
the
know, and
plasma light.
it's sort of counterintuitive that a plant doesn't need rest, but auto-flowering cannabis plants don't need rest. That's just all there is to it. The ruderalis doesn't need rest, and it's just amazing to me. It was the one thing I resisted more than anything else.
You know, I'm kind of curious. I know with some of my experience under LAD that if you run under my experience, if you run a high ppfd of LED for 24 hours under my photo periods, it sometimes will lock out certain strains. So
Right,
is
different
that
kind of
something
plant,
that
and if you put a photo period, in different hours and all, you can change the way it flowers. Well, you're breaking up.
I was just wondering? You
I'm
kind of
losing you,
started to
but
answer.
all I can tell you is there is a difference. Auto flowering plants survive under 24 hours. I don't know any other plants that do, frankly. I just don't. It's. Well, I'm losing you.
Oh no, no. Are you still there?
No, no.
Oh no. Are you there? Ah, there you are. There you are.
Yeah. Hey, we probably better get going anyway because my wife is yelling at me. But auto
No
flowering
worries.
plants are different, and I urge you to try 24 hours and you convince yourself.
Just a couple of things before you go.
Whoop,
Can you hear me?
I lost you again.
Just a couple of things before you
I
go.
can
I'd
hear
like
you,
to
but I
tell.
can't. Yep, I can hear you, I think.
just a couple of things before you go there. I'd like to to get this, what I call the soundbite from you, if you don't mind.
Can't hear.
Can you hear me? Oh, come on. Come on, internet.
Yeah. All right, there we go.
There we go.
We better.
Hopefully there we could. Yeah. Is there any way that I could get? I do like an old school radio soundbite. Is there any way I could get the soundbite from you? Basically, this is because we're hurting for internet here. This is what I'm looking for. Is something like this. Hey, this is Jeff Lowenfels, and I'm on fucking Talking Shit with Eagle, episode 226. You know, you can embellish on it, whatever.
Sure. Hey, this is Jeff Lowenfels, episode 226, Talking Shit with Eagle, and I'm on it. I'm really excited. So let's talk some shit, folks.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. I just also wanted to let you know, that this Zoom number is always the same. If you happen to tune in and see that it's a rabbit hole, you're more than welcome to jump in at any point and say hello. You know, push a book, tell us we're stupid, set us in the right direction. We'd love to hear from you.
You got it.
Thank you so much for making time to hang out with us tonight. It's been a pleasure. And wow, I just can't thank you enough, sir.
Oh, always my pleasure. Have a great one and go to bed. It's too late.
I will. Thank you. You have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Jeff Lowenfels, everybody. Can you believe it? What a great fucking night, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Got a little bit short there towards the end. Internet was kind of what it is. But I've got good news for you guys. And I have not even announced this yet. Jeff has announced that I spoke with Jeff before the show, and he has agreed to come back and do another episode in the Organics Takeover with Smiley's Gardens. So we have not heard the last of Jeff. So Smiley will be taking it for the next episode from here, diving deeper into the microbes, the fungi, all that good stuff. Congratulations, Smiley. You get the round 2 of the Jeff Lowenfels experience. Well, like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to get me something to drink, load up this tray. Hopefully you guys will join me in the rabbit hole. If not, I can fully understand that. Thank you guys for joining in up until this point. You guys know the deal. Please do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness do save lives. They do change lives. And it takes random acts of kindness. So just like Jeff Lowenfels and saying, hey, no problem. I will come on your show and talk to you and your community and give as much advice as I can. That is the way it works. And I am so lucky to be in this spot. I just want you guys to know that. And it wouldn't be possible without you guys hanging night after night after night. Thank you guys. I'll be back in just a few minutes with the rabbit hole. Thanks for tuning in.